Welcome back to the Red EVO build series. In this video, we're going to tackle putting on the windshield wipers, changing out the valve cover. We'll install a lot of the body components, including fenders, headlights, the rear bumper, taillights, side skirts, and we'll get our freshly refurbished brakes in place. So a couple items under the hood that we're going to work on. We have our heater hose kit. I got brand new OEM heater hoses that I'm going to install. Now this hose kit came with clamps as well, so that's good. You can see different markers on these, different colored numbers, and then the 2 dots and the 1 dot. You can see the one with the 2 dots here is the one that is more towards the driver's side of the car. It's going to run from our thermostat housing to the firewall here, to our heater core. And the other hose runs back to, I think if I remember right, the pipe or water pipe in the back here. So we're going to run that hose in the back as well and hook that one up to our heater core too. And once they're in place, we can line up these clamps. These are kind of unique clamps I've never seen them come like this before actually, but they're the ones you just squeeze to release, but they also were already kind of pre-squeezed. So I just pulled off the clips and then they were locked in place. Another minor thing, but more work to be done under the hood is just installing our throttle cable. So I went ahead and looped that around the way it should go, and then I installed the part onto the throttle itself, that little ball type end. Pushed that in and got that in place with the cable first, and then lined up that bracket that holds the cable in place and tighten up those bolts. Next, we got this cowl panel that we're going to install that kind of covers up our windshield wiper motor and our windshield, part of the windshield wiper arms. This is a good thing to install now because it does tuck under, I think, the fenders just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed before we get our fenders installed. I made a mistake when I first put this in place. You can see it's a little bit twisted. The rubber seal part is a little bit twisted. I wasn't paying enough attention to that. And it's kind of a pain to remove that rubber seal from this cowl piece. So I just ended up lifting up this cowl piece again, since it was not much holding in place. I lifted it up and just gave it a little spin just to twist it around and untwist that rubber seal. Taking a look at the windshield wiper arms here, you can see they need to be repainted. So I'm going to repaint mine. And the one with the longer blade is, of course, the driver's side. The one with the shorter blade is the passenger side. But the arm itself on the driver's side is the shorter one. And actually, you can see here as well that they do have markings on them. There is a left and a right. So that's good as well. Look for the L and the R, and then you can tell which one goes on where in case you're putting together an EVO that was ripped apart by someone else, like I am. So just the nut on those, you kind of line those up generally where you think they should go, and then put the nut on to tighten them up. And then, of course, add your windshield wiper blades as well. And then there's a little plastic cover that covers up the nut, and we'll put those plastic covers on too. Now I'm going to end up swapping out my valve cover. Honestly, I didn't plan to do this, but I found a valve cover local to me that was in great condition, so I had to buy it. So first thing, of course, to swap out your valve cover, you would need to remove your coil packs. So we're going to remove our coil pack, some of the wiring harness that I had attached to this valve cover. I'm going to remove parts of that wiring harness as well. And of course, unplug the crank position sensor cable that runs across the valve cover too. After that, it's just a bunch of bolts you need to loosen up. And then we can pull off our old valve cover. And here's our new one. What I like about this one is no one ever did anything with the baffling. This one was never repainted. This is basically OEM untouched valve cover. Don't find those very often anymore in this condition. And like I said, it was local to me and it was $250. And honestly, I didn't even haggle. I thought that was a good, fair price for a EVO 8 valve cover in this condition. So I grabbed that, and that's what we're going to install now. So of course, you get all your bolts in place and get those tightened up. I think a common mistake a lot of people make on this is over torquing these bolts though. So make sure you do not tighten them too much. I also like to generally start from the center of the valve cover and work my way outward just to try to get a smooth, tighten as it clamps down. If you look up the specs to the torque specs for tightening up your valve cover bolts, it's like almost nothing. So make sure you don't over tighten your valve cover bolts when you're putting that in place. And then, of course, reconnecting the sensor we unplugged for the crank position sensor. And then we're also going to install our coil packs, put those back in place, of course, as well. And you probably all noticed, but here's the old one. It had kind of that broken off ear, as you'd like to call it. So you could kind of see right into the timing, the cam gears and the timing belt because that ear was broken off. The valve cover itself did its job as far as covering up, the components of the cylinder head. but it looked pretty ugly. I never really liked it. It was just cheap, so that's kind of why I bought it initially. One thing underneath the car that we're going to do is install this front portion of the drive shaft. Ideally, I want to drive this car out of this position or the place that it's in. I want to make it drivable to drive it out once it runs. So we're going to go ahead and install our drive shaft, at least this front portion of it. Didn't film it because underneath the car, pain in the butt, and there's not much to really do. Obviously, you just put it in place. There's 4 bolts and 4 nuts. So we just put it in place, line it up, and tighten up those nuts. Now we're going to move on to the body components. We're going to put our fenders on, but before I did that, you can see I did a little painting here just because there was a little bit of surface rust, and I thought now's the time. So I cleaned it up a little bit with some sandpaper, and then I went ahead and did my fancy spray paint job here. Lining up the fenders went pretty easy. It goes pretty good on cars like this. Sometimes fenders I think can be a pain to line up, but it just kind of sets on. You set it over and then run, of course, the wire part through the hole for that side marker. And then I'm going to go through and show you all the points where it kind of connects here. One is right behind the headlight. Then at the top of the fender here, just under the hood, there's 3 spots up there, plus that other cowl part that I mentioned. That part goes over it. And then you can see where the side marker connects. And then there's also in between the door, inside here, you have to open up the door to get to this one. But there's a bolt that holds the fender on. That you'd have to go in through the door. You open up the door to get to that one. And then 2 at the bottom. And of course, the 2 at the bottom are easier to get to because our side skirts are off. And if you're looking for the OEM part number, here you go. This is the part number for the OEM bolts holding on the fender. Same thing on the passenger side, of course. We're going to set this fender over the top, line it up, get a couple bolts in to hold it in place. Once our fender's in place, we can start getting the headlights mounted up as well. Be careful with these. You never want to break a tab or anything because honestly, you destroy the value of the headlight as soon as you break a tab off of it. It's harder, way harder to sell, and no one wants to pay as good of money for them. So make sure you are gentle with these because those top plastic tabs honestly can break off pretty easily. Same thing on the other side, of course. We'll go ahead and line everything up, bolt in place, and plug things in. Pretty simple. Next, here's another OEM part number for you. This side plastic piece that just pops in place. Same thing on the other side. This one I didn't have brand new, but this was in good enough condition. So we go ahead and put that one in as well. And then these side markers on each side, we're going to plug those in and then they just snap in. And when your inner fender guards are out, your inner wheel well stuff is out, it's easier to get to those if you were actually trying to take them out. Now we're going to move on to the rear of the car. We're going to get our rear bumper installed. I should say a rear bumper cover. And of course, I usually try to utilize a little bit of anti-seize whenever I can, just to make sure that this stuff doesn't seize up in place and get rusty, anything like that. But the back bumper kind of pretty much just hangs on these brackets back here. And then there's mounting points on the sides. I didn't really film myself, I don't think, putting the mounting points back in on the sides of the bumper, but I did that. Put the taillights in place. I have a full video on doing a taillight swap. I'll include a link to that in the video description down below. So if you just want a detailed how-to on installing your taillights, just look in the video description for that one. For the most part, it's pretty simple. They do just kind of pop into place, but there are some tricky things to watch out for, especially as far as making sure, again, you don't like chip a corner on them, because that's another thing where you can destroy the value of something. If you chip a corner on a taillight, you're going to have a hard time selling it afterwards. 2 main screws holding those taillights in place, so we'll go ahead and tighten those up. Now we're going to move on to the side skirts, and I honestly don't think I've ever really installed side skirts much before. I know when I repainted my black EVO, I removed them. I don't remember if I was the one who installed them or not, but they are kind of in 2 pieces. There's this black portion on the bottom of it, and then whatever color your car is the main portion of the side skirt. So there's clips that hold them in. Here's one part of the clips. The OEM part number was there for you. And these just kind of slide in place. So these yellow ones just push on into the rocker panel. My passenger side luckily only had like 1 of those broken off, but on the driver's side, it was like all of them except for 1. So I had to swap out all the clips on the driver's side. Side skirt here, I had to swap out all those ones, but luckily I ordered enough to get it done. And then I quickly learned when I'm trying to put this up together in kind of one piece that there are these other connecting parts that kind of go into the car. They are this white colored clip that kind of pushes up in place, and then you could push it up and rotate it to get it to hold in place. However, that's not the way you want to go about installing it. And again, part number for this white style clip is right here on the screen. But giving you a shot of what they look like when they're in the car, you know, this is what kind of tripped me up, is I just saw these up in there and I thought, well, you could probably just hold this, you know, in place. You could hold the side skirt up and just put a screw in there and screw it in place. That does not work because these will just spin in place. So whenever the previous owner took these off, I'm not sure, maybe just put them back up in there. But you need to pay attention to what way these go on. They're kind of a rectangular shape and not a square. And you need to put them on the right way, like I'm doing here, and screw them to your side skirt first before you try to just put your side skirt up in place and then screw these in. It wouldn't work, again, because they would just spin in place. So here you can see the side skirt's ready to be installed with all of our clips in place that we need to kind of now just pop it on. Should be able to just push it in place. But one other portion, I guess I should mention, of course, we are joining the black portion to the red painted portion of this. And there are screws that you can use to hold those two portions together as well. Those are a lot easier to get to later, anytime you want. So you could do that too. Those are just kind of general screws as well. So we're gonna go ahead and pop on our passenger side skirt here first. And what I like to do is kind of push it in from the top side first and then go underneath and get those bottom ones lined up and pushed in. And you'll definitely hear when those kind of push and are in place all the way. And there are other mounting points on the very front and I think on the rear of the side skirts as well. Didn't quite cover all that in this video, but I'm sure you'll figure that out if you're working on it. And finally, we're gonna get our brakes added to the car. Again, I have a whole video, very detailed video about doing brakes on an EVO. I'll link to that in the video description down below as well. And I'm currently working on a video about how to actually rebuild your Brembos and get them, get the seals changed out, get them prepped for paint and kind of doing all that stuff. So I'm working on that one right now. But first things first here, I'm just going to clean up the hub of these because the hub was a little bit rusty, clean up the mounting points, sand down the mounting points for our brake caliper as well, and use a little brake clean everything up. Like I said, I have a full detailed video on this, so I'm just going to kind of skip through this stuff pretty quickly here, just as far as mounting up my front brake caliper and getting that bolted in place. And then, of course, we did install these different brake lines. These are the stainless steel brake lines we installed in different episodes. So we're going to finish up that install, of course, by tightening them up to our brake caliper here. And then installing our brake pads and, you know, just finishing up this job here with our brake pads getting installed and then putting up our hardware, putting our hardware in place. One note, I guess I'll say on a personal note here, again, I just got some regular brake pads that I didn't even know would come with the hardware. But some of the hardware wasn't even the right hardware. It came with two different sizes of hardware, which is very odd. So I guess just always make sure you're using the right hardware. If I had brand new OEM hardware, I'd probably use that instead, honestly. But this is what came with it, and some of the hardware was right, some of it was wrong. Just make sure you check it over before you install it. And of course, now we moved on to the rear. Going to get everything installed in the rear as well. Same story here. Clean up the surface of the hub if it's rusty. Get your brake rotor on. And then in this one, again, I'm showing these brake shims. They have arrows on them. Generally speaking, I forgot this myself. I just did this. But generally speaking, you want the arrows to point towards the direction the wheel would spin while the car is moving forward. So we're going to do that here when we put these brake shims in place. And tap your pins in place all the way. Of course, I had to use more than just a hammer to get them fully tapped in. Again, reference the other video in my description if you want to learn all the details about changing your brakes. But everything turned out pretty good. Everything should be all set on the brakes, except I do need to figure out how to bleed the ABS master cylinder. I did look into EVO scan. I have EVO scan set up. It looks like I can actuate the ABS module with that, so I think that'll help with the process. But if you've ever had a bone dry ABS module and had to bleed it and want to give me some tips on that, that would be much appreciated. So there you have it. That's pretty much everything I've got done on the red EVO build over the last couple months. It's starting to get down to crunch time. Honestly, I'm waiting to get the turbo back from a shop to get a couple broken bolts fixed from the hot side of the turbo. But once I have the turbo back, I'm pretty sure we should be smooth sailing to kind of finish this up and hopefully get this thing running and then troubleshoot any potential issues we might have from there. But of course, I'm just a guy on YouTube who likes to document what he does. So if you think I did anything wrong or could have did anything better, go ahead and politely leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. But otherwise, as always, this is Paul from Boosted Films saying thanks so much for watching. I just want to say that domestic violence is never okay. If you or someone you know is experiencing issues with a partner and doesn't feel safe, please visit the website thehotline.org or call 1-800-799-SAFE.